No?
Chris Columbus in studio. What's up, sir?
Chris Columbus.
Welcome
Take
aboard.
a seat, sir.
We'll get back to your...
Take a seat.
We're just learning that Anthony here...
I got a velociraptor.
He just got a dinosaur for his backyard.
It's like dinosaur.
Well, it's a life-size velociraptor.
It might as well be a real one.
Is it a piece of shrubbery or something?
Like a lawn ornament.
Oh, okay.
But it's like
life-size.
5 feet tall.
Okay.
So it's really it looks
more than 5 feet tall.
Badass. It might be a little taller than 5 feet, but it's pretty cool. It's like an actual size of what they were, and it's in my backyard now. It looks very very festive. Thank you, sir.
But that's what you walked.
Thank you.
That's what you walked into. That's all.
Yeah,
we wanted to make you feel comfortable.
I feel comfortable. I like this studio.
Yeah,
it's nice and small and intimate. We had a larger one, but
we had a massive studio.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, you paw through your resume. There's quite a few motion pictures that people have enjoyed over the years.
Oh, thank you.
I gotta tell you.
Yeah, it's a little shocking when I look at it. I try to forget about a lot of it, just so you can continue to move forward. But yeah, it's kind of nice.
What was the first one that you were like, wow, I think I'm on my way here?
It was actually Gremlins. Gremlins was written in a New York City loft here because I had a bunch of mice that I was actually worried were going to chew off my fingers at night. And I thought these little monsters are kind of scary. I wrote the script, sent it out to 50 producers and studios. No one picked it up. Steven Spielberg was leaving, I think, on a Friday afternoon, saw it sitting on top of his desk, picked it up, and read it.
Come on.
No. I know.
I believe you, but I have to just say that.
No, but I get a call. I'm 22 years old. I get a call on 26th Street here. My roommate answers and says, Chris, it's Steven Spielberg. And I'm like, yeah, bullshit. That's not Steven Spielberg.
Exactly.
And it was, asking me to come out to L.A. to meet with him. And so that was, as Paul Newman said, it's sometimes about luck, and it was that was a lucky moment for me.
Yeah.
That kind of settled it.
Have you ever gotten to talk to the people that turned it down?
I'm sure they would never admit it. It's typical Hollywood. They're not going to admit it.
Right.
Yeah, they screwed
That
up
was your
there.
first hit. That was your first hit. What were you doing right before that?
I did a horrible movie called Reckless, which was written. It was sort of my love letter to Bruce Springsteen and the fact that I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, in a factory town, and the director turned it into Last Tango in Weirton, West Virginia. So I remember sitting there. These are high school kids, and they're having sex. Brilliantly, which, by the way, doesn't exist in high school. Sex usually, for most of us.
Very awkward.
But they're having this, and my agent turns to me during the screening, and I'm practically crying because this guy destroyed my film. And my agent turns to me and says, Academy Award nomination. And I said, are you out of your fucking mind? This is horrible.
Right.
So, that was a disaster before Gremlins.
But I got a follow-up question. So you know that was a good script in your own head, right?
Right.
And now that you're this famous, why not just try to really, make it your vision?
You mean that script?
Yeah, why not?
I'll try to get back there. Those kind of films they're difficult to get financed.
It sounds like you really believe that he destroyed your vision and messed it up.
He wouldn't let me on the set. That's how much he destroyed my
Wow.
vision.
So
But
you got to prove
that's
everyone,
my first movie. So,
but you got to prove everyone wrong and redo it now.
Yeah, well, I kind of, I don't have that anger about that anymore because Gremlins came immediately afterwards, so that was okay.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
You did Only the Lonely too. You just wrote that?
I wrote it and directed it. No,
did you have John Candy in mind for that, or did you not write it?
I met John because John came in on Home Alone. We were doing Home Alone, and we needed a guy to play the polka guy, Gus Polinski. And John came in, and we shot 24 hours with John. We literally shot 24 hours, all of his scenes in that movie.
Wow.
And John and I just hit it off. So I wrote Only the Lonely initially for an Italian guy, and then I changed it to an Irish-American family and got Maureen O'Hara back into the film business. And John was maybe the nicest guy who ever lived.
Everyone
Funniest
says
guy I've ever met. Truly hilarious, but also one of the sweetest guys in the world. One of his best performances. Not a lot of people saw that movie.
I agree. I thought it was with Ali Sheedy. I thought it was fucking fantastic. I thought he was very underrated as an actor. Like his serious moments and the things he did that were non-comedic, those moments he was fantastic in.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, he was great to work with. Yeah, he was amazing.
What made you, being a writer, what made you say, like, I could direct too?
That was I was drilled into my head at NYU that you have to write in order to become a director. This is before the age of independent film. So for me, it was like they told me that if you write enough screenplays and they're successful and they get made, you can also become a director. So, and I wanted to. I don't like what's that?
I guess it worked.
It worked. I just didn't like sitting in a room. It felt so lonely just being in a room for 12 hours writing. Right. And I did it for a long. I did it until I could direct it.
What was the first movie you directed?
Adventures in Babysitting.
Okay, that was Adventures in Babysitting. Did you feel vulnerable? Did you feel like, oh my God, are people going to listen to me? Were you hard ass or were you kind of?
The first day I thought I was going to get fired.
Really? I mean, a lot of directors say that.
Yeah, I still feel when I get onto the site. Honest to God, I still feel like I'm going to get fired. It's that thing that haunts you. It's with you forever. So those first 3 days on Adventures in Babysitting, I thought they're going to see that I'm this big phony. That I'm
fraud.
Yeah, because I walked onto the set that first day. I'll never forget. And I've been preparing for this moment for years, and it was. Oh my God! What the fuck am I going to do? I forgot everything I had learned, and then I had to. It took about 5 minutes to get out of that.
Yeah,
but that was a terrifying moment. But it was a fun movie to do because I got to work with some great people like Albert Collins, the blues singer.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not always translatable. Like Stephen King writes, is a genius writer, but when he gets into the screenplay aspect of it, it just doesn't work. Like for some reason, his visions of his work is not as good as like Kubrick's vision of his work.
Yeah, if you look at Maximum Overdrive in comparison with Shawshank, he wrote both of them.
Right.
I was just going to bring up Maximum Overdrive. I'm glad you did.
That was called Trucks, I think.
Yeah,
the original
that was the short story.
Was Trucks. Rita Hayworth in the Shawshank Redemption was the short story.
Yeah.
I'm boring everyone, myself included.
I'm sure there's a lot of listeners who know Rita Hayworth.
I'm sure.
Maybe
there's a few.
You never know.
They probably made a good move changing the title and shortening it to just Shawshank Redemption. It's just my opinion.
Good move there, Jim.
Yeah. But I just wanted to commend you and say I didn't mean to pitch you against Stephen King.
But I didn't do a movie about mad trucks, right?
No, I like the fact that you're able to translate into directing. It's not easy.
It's just because I was upset. I really wanted to do it. Yeah.
And you went the whole route with going to school and
I went to NYU. Yeah, I went to NYU. Lived here for 17 years, and then moved out to San Francisco. Did a picture and kind of fell in love with that city and moved my family there. I was Mrs. Doubtfire, so
Mrs. Doubtfire,
a little film called Mrs. Doubtfire.
You directed that, or?
Yeah, I directed it. Yeah, which was an exercise in documentary filmmaking because Robin, at his most energetic and manic, would do 2 or 3 scripted takes and then would veer off. So we had 2 or 3 cameras on at all times because the other actors never had any idea what he was doing. The first time I edited a film electronically, we shot over 1 million feet of film, and we had everything from the G-rated version to the NC-17 rated version of the film. So that was a great experience, but a grueling experience.
Was anybody able to kind of, because he really is brilliantly, when he's going off on a weird tangent, like was anybody able to kind of keep up with him and go with the scene, or did you kind of lose everybody?
Every actor, remember I had pros. I talked to the actors beforehand, so I had Sally Field and Pierce Brosnan, and they were really able to keep up with him. It was exhausting for them, though, as well. You never knew what was going to come out of his mouth, and he never repeated it. So the script supervisor's like scribbling madly.
Right.
She was sweating. I thought she was going to have a heart attack. Keep up with him,
He's a really good actor. Like I love his serious acting, even though Miss Doubtfire was brilliant in that. But I like his acting more than I ever did his stand up.
He was great in Good Will Hunting. He's a great actor.
Yeah,
and he'll continue to do some great films. Yeah,
I heard he made so much money off Good Will Hunting because he had an amazing back end deal that when his next bonus was about to kick in, that they had to just pull it out of the theater because it would have been too expensive. Like if they kept it in the theater, he would have had to hit another, or something like that. I forget where I read that, but I was like, that's because he made that movie, because Matt Damon and Ben Affleck weren't known at that time, so it was the fact that Robin won the Oscar for it.
Right,
made that movie a lot of money. It's a good.
Just a little background on the name.
My name?
On your name, yeah.
My father.
Sounds familiar.
It
sounds familiar.
Rings a bell.
Let me tell you something. My father, who he was in a coal mining community, had 12 kids, right, in his family, Italian immigrants. Back then, when the woman had a baby, she'd go into the hospital. Bam, she's out. Drugs. He's out drinking. He comes back to the hospital, names the kid either Christopher or Christina, based on the sex of the baby. Grandmother gets up, changes the name. I'm born. my dad says, it's a long-lost wish of your grandfather to be named Christopher, so I get the name. Now, some people think I'm an asshole, like I've changed my name to this. I'm like, are you kidding me? You think that I would actually change my name to Chris Columbus? Like, and I want to be considered a serious filmmaker? Right. Jesus, it's like changing your name to Barney Fife. I was like, this is ridiculous. It's not going to happen. So but I didn't want to be a jerk and change my name, so I kept it. So that's how it existed, and there's nothing I can do about it.
You should actually put a T at the end and call yourself Christ Columbus.
That's something Bono would do.
Exactly.
So this is your first novel, right?
Your novel, a book.
A book that in 1999 was a script. I wrote the first 90 pages of a screenplay called Stones of Time, not House of Secrets. And by the time I got to page 90, it was a $500 million movie. So I put it in a drawer and went off to do the Potter films. Came back 4 years later. I couldn't get the idea out of my head. Looked at the manuscript again, maybe a television series, and again, too expensive.
Wow,
But I really couldn't get the idea out of my head, and about 2.5 years ago, I thought maybe a novel. But I don't want to. I couldn't lock myself in a room for a year and a half and ignore the film business. So I found this co-writer, a guy named Ned Vizzini. He's a brilliant young writer. I gave him the first 90 pages, said, see if there's something here. A week later, he sent me the first chapter, the first 8 pages of the novel. I liked it. I rewrote it, sent it back to him, bounced it back and forth. Wow. Kind of as a hobby. Before we knew it, we had 100 pages. Wow. And we took it to a publisher. Now it's in 12 to 14 languages or something. So it's very exciting. And it is people are like, well, what is it like Harry Potter? Well, it's got a little of that in it, but it's mostly a thematic sequel to The Goonies. Because all these years, and I didn't take it, when The Goonies was released, I didn't take it that seriously. I liked the movie, but I was more of a fan of Gremlins. I'm like, I kind of like Gremlins a little better. And I was into young Sherlock Holmes, which I was writing at the time. So I kind of ignored The Goonies. And then once I got to London, all these 23-year-olds are coming up to me on the set saying, you know what movie changed my life, mate? And I'm like, Home Alone, they're like, The Goonies. It's just meant that. And it didn't stop. Then I started getting all these letters about The Goonies. It became more than a cult. People were becoming obsessed with it. And there's like, when is there going to be a sequel? And I said, they're 35 years old. It would be a sad fucking sequel to have these 35-year-olds on bikes looking for treasure. So I was like, I can't do that. So I said, this House of Secrets is, takes the spirit of the Goonies, but gives these 3 kids a brand new adventure to go.
By the way, I disagree. I think 35-years-olds on a bike looking for treasure would be an amazing.
That would be awesome.
All right, I'll start writing that as soon as I read it.
A little more tragic, though. That would be kind of.
Yeah, but did you build in some kind of a great backstory? Like, you know what I mean? None of them are allowed to drive because of DUIs. Real confined to the same neighborhood because of Megan's Law. Just a phenomenal backstory. Looking for treasure. So, why would it have been a $500 million movie if you just saw where it was going?
Yeah, the effects were just too incredibly outrageous. Now, of course, since visual effects are getting a little cheaper, there's a possibility it can be a movie someday, but we'll see.
And it will be a movie someday.
There's a great endorsement by J.K. Rowling, which is really probably not easy to get on a book.
No, she's it's extremely difficult, but I sent, I know her pretty well, and I sent her the book just to get advice on it, and she came back and said, you got to slow down the pace a little, add some more character stuff.
Oh, wow.
And so we took that to heart, and then a couple of weeks later, she sent me this quote, which was really...
So she actually read the book. That's weird. Like, you figure a lot of people wouldn't take the time to read it when they're worried about their own, I guess, multi-trillion-dollar franchise.
Well, certainly, most studio executives these days won't read anything over 4 pages. So I don't ever read this. But yeah, she read it. She loved it.
And was the advice she gave you was good?
It was good. We were working at such a fast pace that we had missed certain things in the book, and we went back and fixed those things.
What were the character development things?
Character development things, dialogue things, some logic things, yeah.
I always think it's odd when you have a franchise of a movie and different directors direct different installments of it. What did you think of the ones, the Harry Potters that you didn't direct?
It was interesting. At the time, it was not at the time we had sort of the weight of the world on our shoulders. And I'm not saying that
there were some big expectations.
That's as a filmmaker, everybody's looking at you like, who are you going to cast? Who's going to, what is Quidditch going to look like? Those are the kind of things that were on my mind for a long time. We were making the first movie, so the first movie was not a barrel of fun. We were really, because if we screwed that up, there would be no second Harry Potter movie,
yeah.
and it was too expensive, and we would have torpedoed the whole series. I wasn't thinking about that every day, or else I probably would have never left my house.
Yeah, really. Man.
So that was a little intense. Once the first movie came out on a Friday, and we realized that it was successful, that Monday we started shooting the second movie. So it was that quick.
Wow.
But literally, the second movie then became a lot of fun and became, even though it was a darker film, for me, a lighter experience.
You just know that, yeah, hey, we're off and running.
We're okay.
And,
People have responded to it. People liked the movie. So that was good. And then on the, they were 2 movies, 160 days each for me, back to back. And I thought I was going to direct all 7. I thought, I have unlimited energy. Not the case. I was, physically and mentally, I was exhausted. I could barely put 2 words together after finishing the first.
So were you supposed to do the third?
Yeah, I was going to do the third.
And you just tapped out. You said.
I said, Steve Clovis said to me, "You got to read Prisoner of Azkaban. It's my best script." I said, "Steve, there's no way I can do this. I got to see my kids again before they're,
Can you
they're
imagine tapping out of the Harry Potter series?
Unbelievable.
It's
but
amazing
I produced
to
the
me.
third one. I produced the third.
You were still in, but
yeah, I was there. That way I could work 8 hours a day as opposed to 16.
Right. Wow.
I'm sorry. Were you able to get creatively? You had some kind of input though in that one
every
too?
day. Yeah,
okay.
we had input on who was going to be cast, and it was
just the day-to-day.
But I did like J.K. Rowling's idea. Her concept was constantly to make these films darker and darker.
Yeah.
We knew when we first met and talked about it that each book was going to get darker. So that we set that into motion initially. With the first 2 movies. The second movie's a little darker, a little more desaturated in color. Third movie gets a little darker. So yeah, I've been very impressed by what the other directors have done, and particularly impressed by how great the kids have become as actors.
Were you part of all 7 in the end?
No.
So
no,
you were done after 3?
After 3, I moved back to the States,
2 and produced the third.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
A lot of your movies, too, there's that youthful theme that goes through a lot of your screenplays and whatnot. Are you kind of in a state of arrested development throughout your life?
Probably. I'm still, that's the problem. I still have the heart of a 10-year-old and the mind of a 10-year-old boy. Which can get you into trouble at times, but I just, I love that particular side of filmmaking. I love to sort of create those things that kids will, be able to watch for 20 years. Mm-hmm. That, on the other hand, we did a picture called The Help a couple of years ago that really opened up, for me as a filmmaker, seeing that it's possible to make a film that is, about character and about conflict and about something sort of deep, and audiences showed up. Mm-hmm. That's kind of rare. It's not Transformers, it was The Help. So I thought, well, there's still, and then this year you get inspired by movies like Argo and Beasts of the Southern Wild, and movies that people are actually going to see. And maybe the business is changing a little bit. Maybe people are getting a little tired of that. So House of Secrets is the stuff I've always been doing, but I get to do that as a book. And then from a film perspective, hopefully I'll have a career like Clint Eastwood. As Clint was doing movies about fighting chimpanzees 20 years ago, now he's one of the greatest living directors. So I'm still hungry. I've got, I really have about 20 years left, I hope, of making some good movies.
Yeah.
What is there any genre that you haven't really gone into directing-wise that you want to, or anything?
Well, I didn't direct The Help, but I was on the set. I promised Spielberg I'd be there every day because it was a first-time director, so I was on the set every day.
Yes. I had to promise him I wouldn't.
Oh boy, good setup. Yeah, right. But yeah, so I was. There's a lot of genres, but it depends on the movie. The movie has to be great. I've gotten myself into trouble because I get to that point where I get very anxious about directing. I want to get back on the set. It's just in my blood. Mm-hmm. So if a good script doesn't come along in about 16 months or 2 years, I'll end up doing. That's why I did a movie like I Love You, Beth Cooper, which is not a movie I'm particularly proud of. We had a director, David O. Russell, was going to direct it. Suddenly he dropped out at the last minute. The studio called me and said, "Why don't you just do this? It'll be fun. It'll be a lark." And I'm like, all right, I'll do it. And I did it. But you gotta you gotta be patient and say, I'm not doing that.
You gotta know a studio is bullshitting when a studio says something will be a lark. It's probably that's not studio language.
No, it'll be fun. Yeah.
It's like sitting at poker and tossing so many hands in. After a while, you're just like, I gotta play something.
Right.
I'm tired of folding the whole time.
Exactly. But now I have to be patient. So I will be patient before I decide what I'm going to direct next.
Who's your favorite director when you were growing up? Like, who do you look at and go, I wish I could do one thing as good as him?
I think it was, I grew up, I grew up in the 70s, so I got to see some pretty great directors. Sidney Lumet was one of the guys who I think is probably almost my favorite. Francis Ford Coppola, Scorsese, all the guys from the 70s.
Did you ever see Q&A by Lumet?
Yeah, it was good.
So many people haven't seen it with Nick Nolte. And all
It's a great movie.
So many people. That's Nick Nolte's best thing. He plays a big tranny-loving Irish cop with a mustache, and he's wearing lifts the whole time. It's fucking fantastic.
You really write a nice synopsis there, Jim.
Please, I felt like I was watching a fucking home movie.
Tranny-loving Irish cop?
Well, without the cop part. But, yeah, Sidney Lumet's great. How about Kubrick? You like Kubrick?
I like Kubrick.
You don't love him, though?
I don't love him. I love Paths of Glory. I like movies that are emotional and have you know, but I do like him.
You feel like he was overrated, or you just
not
his style?
overrated. I respond to emotional directors. I love David Lean. I love Howard Hawks. I love Frank Capra. I love Spielberg. But I like Kubrick, but I think Kubrick's best films are his earlier films. I like Clockwork Orange. I like, and I really do love Paths of Glory. Paths of Glory is one of the most emotionally devastating anti-war films I've ever seen.
I saw it years ago. Is it Kirk Douglas?
Kirk Douglas, yeah, it's awesome.
I haven't seen that in many, many years.
It's intense. It's only 90 minutes. It's great.
Which is the one? There's one of the old Kubrick movies where the bartender from The Shining, the guy who played Lloyd in The Shining, was in it, and I was like, he likes to reuse. Like the father from Clockwork Orange was also in The Shining. He liked to reuse people.
Yeah, I don't know that guy.
I don't know why I would ask about him.
Yeah, I had a relationship with him.
There's no reason for me to ask about a guy that had one scene in 1980. She was trying to sell a book, and I'm like, what about that guy that did one thing 42 years ago?
Are you a director that a lot of takes, or you like getting it done pretty quickly?
Well, after the Doubtfire experience, I like getting it done quickly.
Done pretty quickly, yeah.
You know, Robin is an exception. I'll do whatever I can to. But yeah, I liked these days 2 or 3 takes.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
You get frustrated if.
Well, it's the Eastwood. Eastwood does. You know, I worked with crew guys who said Eastwood would do one take, and the cameraman would say, "Clint, we panned a light and the sound man." He goes, "I don't care, move on." So he, you know, I don't think I'm there where I would just move
well,
forward.
A gentleman of his size would move a wall.
But 2 or 3 takes is good.
Yeah. Huh?
Yeah.
So Eastwood's one of those guys that just wants to get it done, and he kind of knows. I think Jay Moore said that about him. Like he knows what he wants.
Jay Moore
when he
had
has
great
it.
stories on him.
He knows when he has it.
2 takes, and he knows, and and the actors are prepared. So that's why he gets such good performances, because the actors know they only got 2 shots.
Only got 2 shots.
Every actor will say, "Can I have a 5th or a 6th or a 7th?" If you indulge them, you never know what you have.
Yeah.
And plus, it's Eastwood. You don't want to look like an asshole in front of Clint Eastwood, because I don't think there's any actor. Like, are there actors? I mean, even though you're the director, there's got to be some actors that if you're working with, you're like a little tentative around because of their. Like, if you were working around a De Niro or a Pacino, or no?
Oh God, yeah. You know, I was doing I had to talk to De Niro about a movie that we were potentially going to do about a year ago. And his assistant said to me, Bob loves to talk on the phone. Just call him. And I'm like, can't I just email him? I don't really want to call him De Niro. I'm like, he's like, no, call him. He loves to talk. So I was dying because it was De Niro. It was raging full. It was
you were hoping for the machine to pick up?
Yeah. And he's just like, hello, hi, Chris. But he was the nicest guy in the world. But I had to call him about 5 or 6 times. And each time I couldn't get all of those performances out of my head. Yeah. You know, it's hard to... I think Pacino would be somebody like that as well. You know, and Clint Eastwood would certainly be the most intimidating guy in the world.
But for him, I don't think there's any actors that he would have that reaction. Like that's probably why they know not to fuck around, because it's like there's no actor that's going to alpha male Clint Eastwood on his set. I mean,
well, that's a good thing about being that old, is you've outlived everyone else. So you're dealing with a bunch of young guys who aren't going to go up against you. You know?
Yeah, they probably all look up to him.
Yeah, exactly.
See, that's why I'm good with Hollywood people, because I know all the inside stuff. Clint Eastwood's popular. Idiot.
Hey, did you early on? Did you write or direct any episodic television?
No, I never did.
You never did
any television.
Do you look at that like?
No, not at all. Particularly today. I mean, back in the day, it was probably when I was 23. I thought
wouldn't want to do a Love Boat.
Back then it was Love Boat and Alf. But now, you know, TV is almost better than the
Breaking
movies.
Bad, the Game of Thrones, things like that. Yeah.
I mean, I got here last night and I ran straight to the apartment and watched Game of Thrones. I just, you know, I'm obsessed with that stuff.
I'm 2 weeks behind.
Oh, so I won't tell you what happened.
Yeah, please don't.
Okay.
Ixnay.
Yeah, but it really is amazing how many great things there are now on cable. On regular TV, not too many.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's stuff you can't get at movie.
Was it a conscious decision not to write or direct for television early? Because I mean, a lot of directors did start, even Spielberg, you know, with the Night Gallery and things like that.
You know, I just had somebody who drilled it into my head. You have to write movies. You have to write movies.
Really?
You know, and back then movies that was it. You know, television was not great back then.
No.
Except for Saturday Night Live, you know.
Yeah,
maybe Hill Street Blues or something. But now, like I said, it's a renaissance for television. Yeah.
When you're writing a film, because I've written little things before, like scripts and stuff, but not a film script.
Ransom letters.
It's just, do you have an idea of what your beginning, middle, and end is going to be? Like, okay, this is kind of where I want to go, or you just go, this is a good idea. I hope I find something that doesn't suck to end it with, or do you kind of see the whole thing first?
There's so much that sucks, and I have drawers of things that suck. But
me too. I'm wearing them.
Yeah, you have to take the shot, and sometimes you get 30 or 40 pages into something, and you're like, this is the worst thing I've ever read.
Oh shit!
Yeah, but you just have to do it. You gotta take the shot. But there are also people who will tell you not to do certain things. I remember when I had the idea for Gremlins. Every one of my friends said, God, you're such an asshole. That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. And you have to break through all that. Same thing with Mrs. Doubtfire. I had people saying, are you out of your mind?
Really?
That's horrible. And you just have to see, that there's an end game,
Wow, that's ballsy to not get like, all right, you're right, this sucks.
Right.
And
I wish someone would have said that about Bicentennial Man. But they didn't.
I never saw Bicentennial Man. Did you not like the way it came out?
It was kind of not a great movie. There's certain movies I've done, and I've been knocking that movie for a while, but it's really because you get into it for the wrong reason. Like I said earlier, Rob and I had just done Mrs. Doubtfire, and he did a great cameo in 9 months, and we're talking, and we said, we should work together again. It'd be fun. There's a script, Bicentennial Man. The script was not ready. We said, well, we'll do it anyway. We get into the middle of it, and there's a whole boatload of issues and problems with the material. So I avoided that pitfall again as well.
Oh, okay. Well, does he not like it either?
Oh, Robin busts. In his stand-up, he'll always bring out Bicentennial Man. I think I was first, though. I'll take credit for being the first guy to jump on that movie.
But I like the guy who will criticize his own stuff, because then you know it's genuine when you say that you like something.
Right. You have to be a dick to come to really, honestly, and there are a lot of them in Hollywood, a guy who would say, well, I love all of them like they're my babies. Well, they're not really your babies. Some of them are,
Yeah, somebody else's babies.
Somebody else's babies that you don't want to see,
Someone screwed this one up. Are you like technical modern guy with a computer, or you use a pen still when you write?
I'll do. I'm doing something on E Street Radio later, and I had to, I did all that longhand. And when I write, but when I was writing the book, it was all computer. It was all emailing back and forth. The writer and I have only met each other 5 times in person.
Isn't that amazing how that's gotten to where you can just exchange ideas instantly like that? A lot of musicians do that too. You just take a file, send it to somebody, they throw it in the studio and lay down guitar tracks to it, send it off to the next guy, and you could get an entire song done, an album done without the band ever meeting.
It's kind of amazing. I mean, Ned and I, we said at the outset, it's not the Clint Eastwood thing, certainly, but I've been, I'm 20 years older than my co-writer, and he, again, is a Goonies fan and loves all that stuff, and I said to him, look, if I send you a chapter, feel free to edit it, cut dialogue, do whatever you want. There's no ego about it, and you should feel the same way about what I do to your stuff. Don't be concerned about that. And we had a good relationship. There were never any fights,
Wow, yeah.
See, I find collaboration to be so hard. Like, I hate when people change my word. Like, it's really, like, you know what I mean? I don't know how you do that. I admire the ability to do that, because that's a much better way to work creatively.
It's just you have to do it in the film business all the time. I mean, the most important part of a long career in the film business is collaboration.
Yeah,
if you're not collaborative and you're fighting, you can be a jerk and fight for something that's wrong. I've seen that happen. I've seen people fight for a bad idea. Well, what's the point?
Just
you pick your battle
their
figures,
idea.
Right?
Yeah.
You got to pick the ones you're going to fight for.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate when people change my I don't know why I just said that twice.
Because you really hate it.
I know, but I said it once. You all have, your ears fell off. You all heard it.
That's why you reiterated.
You acknowledged it, and I just had nothing else to say. So I'm like, always repeat. That's popular in a conversation. Sounds an idiot. But the book is called House of Secrets, and you're obviously a great and prolific writer and worker. So this is a book I'll read. We just got this today, or I would have been more prepared.
This is the advanced copy. You guys should get the hardcover. Looks cool. I'm like a book geek and nerd, and when I got it on my desk, there's like a nice solid hardcover with illustrations. It's really cool.
I like the advanced copy signed though, because no one else has that.
Okay, I'll sign it for you.
I don't sell it. I just keep it for me.
Of course you do. Yeah. He's got a museum at his house.
I really do.
It's
I
amazing.
just show girls. I'm like, look at this. She's like, what is that? I'm like, oh.
Wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Good way to wrap things up, Jim.
Yeah, well,
thanks. Chris
Columbus is great.
Thanks, guys.
Great. What a blast.
This was fun. Thank you, guys.
Really cool.
I think we're done, too, huh?
This Saturday night, I will be at the Moon Tower Festival in Austin performing, and Friday night, I'm doing Marin's live podcast in Austin. So if you want to see me, I'll be there. If not, ignore that.
And I guess we'll see everybody tomorrow.
Chop, chop.
Yes, thanks.
The Opie and Anthony Show is premium